Good morning. Good Monday morning. So it's time, right? I don't know that this is a PSA more so than just like a real talk, kind of like a venting talk, right? So, there's been a lot of news and press lately about weight loss drugs. I think for the most part, the world has it as um, a way that women are cheating or people are cheating um, by using these drugs that were obviously commonly known for people who were diabetics. And so there's this big stigma of like, okay, well, yeah, you can take those shots, but they're really not good for you. And, in 10, 20 years, you just don't know what it's going to do to you. And, so I get all of it. Like I understand. I mean, I think we went through something like this even with the hydrochloroquine when it came to COVID, and people who really desperately needed it for medical purposes couldn't find it because there were a lot of people jumping on a bandwagon that this was a way for you to cure, protect, whatever you want to call it, for COVID. So here we are, right? These are GLP-1 drugs, I think is what they're called. Needless to say, a little bit about my journey. Um, over the years, I have shared that I've had autoimmune issues. And there's a lot more than just the autoimmune issues. I've had quite a few health issues since I was in my 20s. And part of understanding your journey is understanding and knowing your family. So, coming from a Hispanic origin family, Latinos, Latinas, and 100 of y'all have had this message before, right? Like a lot of us were born and raised in an environment where it was like, even if pain existed, even if there was some underlying health condition, we were just built strong, and we were built to the point where, hey, suck it up, do what you got to do. Everybody's got pain, everybody's got drama, everybody's got something. And so I know that the health issues that I came into and noticed strongly towards the end of my 20s into my 30s were life impacting. So I tried to avoid, excuse me, because I'm getting ready. I tried to avoid going to the doctors, but mine were life impacting. And so I ended up going to a doctor at a very young age and finding out at a very young age that I just had a lot of female problems. I had high blood pressure. Somewhere in the 20s and 30s, I had hypothyroidism, which I still currently have all of those. But my whole point of this journey is that we didn't really have a lot of history from our own family to talk to doctors. So we end up becoming like mouse rats, right? Like those lab rats, where mouse rats, anyways, lab rats, where the doctors are just like trial and error, right? Like, oh, okay, well, these numbers are high and these numbers are low, and so take this or take that. And so we become like lab rats. And then because we just don't have the knowledge that we should to be able to say, oh yeah, for 10 years, for 10 generations, my family has suffered with this. So along the way comes autoimmune conditions like I have, fibromyalgia. My mom at one point was diagnosed with lupus, and so they thought I had lupus. The fibromyalgia, and now here recently in the last 10 years, Sjogren's, right? I still have the hypothyroidism. I've had female problems to the point where I actually could not give birth to a child. So when I was 30, I had basically considered a full hysterectomy. I have falsely tested positive for ovarian cancer. So then those went, along the way. And so my journey has just been like up, down, and everything. And so, a lot of people know only what they know because social media is allowed to share, which is why I'm on this platform right now. And so I guess going full circle with these weight loss drugs, right? So somewhere along my journey in the last 5 years, part of my diagnosis with the Sjogren's, which is the dry mouth, the dry skin, the dry eye, weight fluctuation, inflammation, to where your pain is just severe. So finally, after a journey with the rheumatologist, he's just like, look, I'm going to be straight with you. At the end of the day, a lot of your symptoms can be cured or lessened if you drop somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 pounds. At the time when the rheumatologist shared this with me, I was like, hello, what do you think I'm trying to do? I'm literally coming to you because I have so much pain. I can't even get into the gym. Like, I literally, and my daughter and my ex-husband can testify to this, I literally had days, and I'm talking numerous days, of like where I literally would just drop when I came home, took everything off, and just went to bed. I'm talking like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. I was in bed until the next day when I had to go and work my next 13-hour day. So I have been there. And so when this rheumatologist told me I had to drop all this weight, I was pissed because I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm here telling you, I can't even go to a gym. I have so much pain, I can't even go to a gym. Anyways, I ended up being on some pretty hard medication. Methotrexate, I believe, was one of them, and the hydrochloroquine was another, along with all the other meds I had been taking. And I just remember being in that period of my life. There was a lot happening. 2019, my mom was diagnosed with the dementia and Parkinson's. I was going through a divorce, and I'm being told I need to lose 50 to 60 pounds. So at the end of the day, I'm frustrated. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, if nobody's going to listen, why am I even going to bother? But again, being who I am and how I was raised, you just don't give up, right? You just don't throw your hands up in the air and go up. That's it. Because literally, I want to say it was somewhere around 32, 33 years old that I was offered disability. Now, I'm at a different stage in my life, and that is definitely something that I'm considering because of my underlying health conditions. But back then, hell to the no. I mean, I could never go to my family, and I actually, not even my family, just in my own mind, because of the way I was raised, there was no way I could be disabled that young. And so, yeah, so I was like, I'm not giving up. Like, I'm not going to just become disabled in my 30s. So, full circle again, I realized what those medications were doing to me. I was having a lot of gastro issues. Then I started to have like liver issues and kidney issues. And so I knew I had to get off those meds. And then, life happens, right? And some hardships came and went. And so I actually wasn't really even going to see the rheumatologist anymore because we were just struggling, in an area of where we were trying to just get back up. And I had to get off the meds. And once I got off those really strong meds, I really noticed the difference. Yes, I was still inflamed. Yes, I still had pain. But your body in general, like, I just felt like I was a zombie sometimes. I just felt like, I just was not like, I already had cognitive issues. Like, I already had the bad memory and things of that nature. And this is pre-COVID. This is, all of that. Okay. So introduce in all this mess, menopause, right? So I just was like, could not catch a break. So after I end up getting like the ovaries yanked, they say, hey, you don't have ovarian cancer. I was at a loss. And so one of my primary doctor, who was my primary most of my life, ended up coming to the end of his journey and retiring. And I was just like, he was like my saving grace, outside of all the specialists I was seeing, from my liver and kidney. And then, I was doing oncology, for quite a few years because of the false test of the ovarian cancer. My primary was my saving grace. So when he told me he was retiring, I was really sad because I was like, now I got to find a new primary. And this was a person who knew everything I had gone through. And I just was having a really hard time with that. So right before he left, he tells me, I've really thought about your journey and I've really thought about everything you've gone through. And he goes, and I don't want to insult you, but have you ever been to a nutritionalist? something like a nutritionalist is basically what he said. And I was like, no. And so he had a colleague that he worked with that used to work in his business for weight loss treatment. And she was no longer there. She was almost independent. She was with a bariatric clinic. And so he told me, I think you really need to go see this lady because number one, she's female and she can relate. Number two, I feel like she might be able to look at your journey and give you maybe some alternatives. So I said, okay, fine. So started my new journey with the bariatric clinic / nutritionalist, right? And I think when I first went in, everybody was on this bandwagon of getting the surgery done, right? But I was like, maybe, okay, so at my max, I think I was 189, which is very bad for 5'2" Latina. But I was fluctuating a lot too. So when I went in, the very first thing they started treating me for was to get prepared for weight loss surgery. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like nobody talked to me about weight loss surgery. And even though I was in those higher numbers, I still didn't feel like I was truly obese. So I was scared because I had had friends that had gone in to get surgeries and some it did really well, some didn't. And some ended up like getting the surgery, paying thousands of dollars and then putting all their weight back on. So I just was not a believer. So luckily when I talked to my nutritionalist, the new one that I was seeing, I shared my journey with her and I told her, I said, I really don't think weight loss is an option or the way to go. And she agreed. And so for the first time in so many years, I literally had a female doctor that was like, hey, you're pretty toned. You've got natural genetic muscle and yeah, you're going through all these things, but I think we can help you. So fast forward to now, right? I'm now, I was then at that time given these shots and I was in a financial place where I could afford to, because my insurance wasn't covering, to take these shots. And so I started to do the shots. The weight started coming off. Now, mind you, I didn't just do the shots. If you know me, I am a diehard gym rat and I have been since my 20s and I fluctuate a lot, but I've always been a gym person. At a minimum 3 to 4 times a week, I was working out and I did weights and I did, cardio. I'm not a person that can tell you I came off the streets and had never exercised before because that's not me. That's not my family. So mind you, I'm already doing all the hard work and I'm not seeing the results. However, I realized that my working out was more of a mental health relief. And so that's, the journey I took. So I got on the shots. Financially, it was just unheard of. It should have never happened. I should have never paid out of pocket what I was paying for the shots. But my whole point to the story was I lost the weight. And after all those years of my rheumatologist telling me that if I just dropped some weight, my numbers overall would look better, he was right. And even though I was offended at the time, here I was on a different journey and I'm doing these shots and it took me like 3 different brands for something to really impact me. So that's the other thing was it wasn't just like the basic GLP shot. I mean, I can't remember the first one, but I know I went through Wegovy and I ended up landing on Zepbound. And so I was at like my prime, like I had lost the weight, but more importantly, oh my gosh, my numbers, my inflammation number, my white blood counts numbers, my blood pressure, I can't necessarily thyroidism, but all of my numbers were awesome. I literally went almost a whole year not even thinking about my Sjögren's or my fibromyalgia or my autoimmune conditions, not because I didn't have flare-ups. Those just don't go away. Like you just don't get rid of it. However, it was at a point where they were manageable with an over-the-counter med. Like, I'm sorry, my lights are dimming. And so, here I was, like, I wasn't even having to think about the methotrexate or the hydrochloroquine or the fact that I wasn't seeing my rheumatologist because financially there were just some issues there. And so, net was, I was thinner, and some might have said, oh, Dora, you're way too thin. But my thrive was not because of the weight loss. My thrive was because all of my numbers were down. And call it what it is, but I just was not able to do that by myself. And more importantly, a female doctor was able to tell me what my body was going through after they yanked my ovaries, after I had immediate onset of menopause. And then, managing all the other underlying conditions I had. So, it was great, right? But financially, impossible to keep up with. So, last year I had to get off them. I think I've been off them now. It's about to be a year, I think in June, that I've been off my shots. And again, that was more of a financial issue. However, because of the weight loss I had, it was so much easier for me to manage my body. So me being off the shots, yes, I put weight back on. But for a long time, and I'm going to say probably about 5 or 6 months, I had maintained that weight. My eating habits were right. My exercise was right. I was understanding my body a little bit better. So knowing a more difference between not so many calorie deficiencies and weight loss, but more of like what protein looks like, muscle mass needs to look like. And so I am so much more educated with the experiences I've had. However, with life in general and things that you go through in life, my inflammation started creeping back up. And it's been in a bad way for about 3 months. And I am still not financially in a place where I can bust out $500 for 4 shots. And unfortunately, none of the insurances that I've had recently will cover any of the shots. So, I sit here and I think to myself, like, what do I do at this point, right? Like, how do I advocate? Because I've always been an advocate all my life, if you know me, for many different things. But how do I advocate for the fact that we're all going to die of something? And what someone told you 20 years ago was going to cause cancer, or 20 years ago would be unhealthy for you, someone else is saying today that, hey, that's the best thing you could do. And it's not dangerous anymore. And it's not going to cause cancer. So you're just kind of like, okay. So coming back to the GLP-1 shots, or I think they're GLP-1s. Gosh, I'm sorry if it's not. But anyways, again, brain fog is huge right now, so forget about that. That's a whole nother video. But I'm at a point now where it's like I still really can't afford $500 for 4 shots. And now, I'm back at the rheumatologist because I'm flared up again. I'm starting to have that pain again. I'm having those days where I come back home and want to just shed all my clothes and, and lay down and just die, right? And I don't like it. And I refuse to get back on the strong meds. So I'm doing everything I can to stay close to my diet and to exercise. But I do feel like insurance companies really need to come up to speed. I mean, not just with this, right? There's so many other topics we can talk about. But in this situation, it's like anything that comes out, I mean, this medicine's been around for decades, for generations for diabetics, right? But just like anything else, they're starting to notice that it's doing better for people who aren't diabetic. And mind you, I am pre-diabetic, okay? My dad and I, and most of the Trinidad family has been always borderline, if not already diabetic. So I've been pre-diabetic for a long time. And technically, I could qualify because I'm so close that they could just say I'm diabetic. But I'm not willing to go there because I know I can manage, and I know I can manage sugar if I get the help that I need. And these shots were one of the only things that brought my inflammation markers down and really helped me get off the dangerous medicine that was affecting my kidneys and my liver. Now my kidneys and liver have damage that I can't recover from. However, my numbers do fluctuate. I mean, that's the one thing about the liver and the kidneys. And I know the liver more so is that that organ can somewhat be regenerated, and your kidneys can also get better if it's not too far gone. So at the end of the day, here I am sitting here going, okay, maybe it's just life, whatever the case may be, but I wake up every morning again stiff. If you see my hands, you can see how swollen my fingers are. My body gets inflamed with everything that everyone else has in life, stress, anything that's happening. And I find myself falling back into that, cocoon that I was in for so many years when I didn't didn't know how to deal with my autoimmune conditions. And so I I'm at a loss right now, and I just felt like I needed to come out and like share my story because again, I've talked to my nutritionalist, and I've, and then by the way, I'm still with her because she's probably the one doctor outside of my primary that retired, and I don't mind saying his name, Dr. Oliver. This is the one person that's listened to me, helped me on my journey as much as she could, and is literally my cheerleader in stating, you are absolutely right, Dora. There is so much more to be understood and researched with these weight loss drugs. It's not just about weight loss. It's obviously about diabetics to begin with. But I mean, now there's everybody kicking into this weight loss journey, and people are like, oh my God, in 10 years and 20 years from now, your body. And I'm like, I'm 52 years old. At the end of the day, I'm going to die of something. Lord knows, don't let me tell you about what I did my first 20 years of my life that may eventually kill me, or the fact that I sure do love my adult beverages and they could probably kill me. And they're definitely one of the things that you're supposed to eliminate when you have the issues I have. And for the most part, I manage it pretty good. But I guess what I'm just saying is like, I'm ready to jump on that bandwagon. I'm ready to go and advocate, whether it's at the state level or the national level or whatever, that these weight loss drugs, there is something to be said. I'm being very careful with my words. There is just something to be said about the benefits that they have. And I'm not trying to be 125 pounds. I would like sculpted muscles because back in the day, I used to be able to have a line right here and a line right here that shows my muscles, but I have muscle. Look at that. I have muscle there. I'm not jiggling. The muscle is there. So would I love to be sculpted? Absolutely. But that's not my priority. Now I realize, what can I do to get back on these shots just so that I can control my inflammation, just so that I can have a handle and be able to do what it is I need to do in life. Right now, that's taking care of helping my dad take care of my mom and taking care of my dad, being there for my family and being there for myself, when life challenges come up, and I feel myself slipping back into, I feel myself slipping back to the coma. And just one last insert. I do therapy. And yeah, like most Latinos, it's just not something that I know is a custom for us, but it's pretty realistic now, where I feel like there is a lot more people. My first is my faith. So I've always had God in my life. And I know when push comes to shove, that will never change. But therapy is always a huge plus for anybody going through any life challenges. And it's great for your mental health and your mental well-being. But unfortunately, it doesn't help with underlying health conditions. And so therefore, I come back to the shots and I say there's something to be said about these weight loss drugs. I am proof that they also help with people who have health conditions, and especially ones that have inflammation. So I'm currently at about 165. And my best weight on these shots, I was 146. But I can't even tell you I was happy at 146 because I lost, benefits or assets that women want to keep. So, working out has been huge for me. Weightlifting is huge, especially over 50 for any woman. You should be lifting weights. You don't have to look like a muscle goddess, but you need to be lifting weights because what's important at our age is skeletal muscle. That's what's important. It's what I focus on with my mother right now with the Parkinson's and the dementia. All I want is for my mom to be strong enough that if something happens and my dad doesn't hear that she falls or that she's fallen or something, that she's got strong enough core muscles and strong enough upper body muscles to pick herself up and maybe, push the button or call 911, right? Like, so all of that is important to me right now. But even with all that being said, I am literally suffering with inflammation, and I need to be there for my family, and I need to be there for me, and I need to be there for my daughter, and I want to be there for future generations. So I just really feel like if there's an opportunity for us to advocate for these weight loss drugs to help in different ways, just like they discovered this journey of weight loss versus just being diabetic, taking these meds, then I'm all for that. And so that's where I stand today. I think there needs to be more research. I truly am not concerned about what my body or life is going to look like in 20 years. Okay. I just believe that God is going to take me when my time comes, but he does expect us to live our best life, as Christians and caring for ourselves. And I'm doing that, but I'm here to tell you that's not enough. It's just not enough. And so I am advocating for these weight loss drugs for people who have autoimmune conditions. And I'm sure there's a million other issues that it could help, but I beg the insurance companies. If I were an insurance company, I'd want you to take these shots. What insurance company is in the business of paying all your claims and paying for you to be in the hospital and for you to be like on life supporting, machines because there was no cure or no help for you? That doesn't make any sense. So if I'm an insurance company, you're telling me and your doctor's telling me that these drugs can help make you healthier and you don't have to see the doctor as much and you don't have to take all those drugs, which that's another monopoly, right? The drug world is completely different. Doctors are completely different. I'm just talking about health insurance. Health insurance, just like car insurance, just like any other insurance, is there for precautionary measures, but they're also not in the business to want to have to pay out if they need to. And I mean, I know it's a very general statement and it could be wrong in many ways, but you get my drift. You get my drift, right? So that was my PSA. That was me sharing. That's my venting. I think there's a lot more that can be done with these weight loss drugs. And these weight loss drugs. And I just wish that we as people would stop judging and putting this stigma around the fact that this is just a cheaty, like this is a medicine that should only be used for diabetics and that people are cheating on the weight loss journey. Who cares? Let them cheat. Let them be skinny mini. Let them do whatever it is they want. I'm one of those people that says I have a better quality of life when I am on them, and I don't want to be skinny mini. I just want to be fit to where I can live my life fully, and I want to live without pain. And that's what these drugs can do for me. So whoever's listening, thank you for hearing me out. Whoever is on the doctor, medical, insurance side hearing me, whatever opportunities are out there that I may not be aware of, please share. Share because I want to advocate for this, because I believe in it. And I believe that through my journey, I can help other people. And if anything, I think the very first piece of advice I can give you is know your family history. Number one. Number two is go see somebody. And if you don't like what they're saying, find somebody else. Find somebody until you hear somebody that can relate to you and is willing to hear you out and is willing to walk through all the measures A through Z to figure out how to help you live the best quality of life. So thank you so much for listening to me on this Monday morning. And I don't even know that this video will actually get out there because now it's almost about 30 minutes long. But somebody who's interested on what I have to say will listen. And that's all that really matters. Thanks, guys.